being here today, taking the time mostly for you. Um, not if not all, mostly for you, all for you. I think it's a really good gift to give yourself to give this time to self care, and so thank you for doing that. I Before we begin, I just want to you know acknowledge. Um, the destruction of the tornadoes, physically, environmentally, emotionally, on those that were most affected. And I think to some degree, we're all affected. And I'm so thankful that so many people are safe. And I know that so many people desperately want to help that were not necessarily physically affected or their homes were affected, and alleviate pain and suffering. And we all want to do and say the right things at the right moments. And I just want everyone to know that my heart, and I know Aaron's heart, is with all of you and everyone else out there who's not with us in this moment. But just remembering that any response to this abnormal event is a normal response. So whatever emotions everyone's having, it's a very normal response. There's no right or wrong way to ever deal or handle or manage or be with difficult stuff like this. And so I'm going to kind of dedicate a little bit of our guided sit to that very thought. So if you've not been with me on a session before, I'm Jennifer Knowles, and I host all of the Whole Teacher Wellness sessions. I do a lot of work with wellness in general in different capacities with Hamilton County Schools. And so I always start my time with a guided sit. What that looks like is just that. You're sitting and I am guiding you with my voice and some ways to navigate this moment right here, right now. And so we'll take a little bit of time to do that during this time. If we're going to, find stillness. If you have noises in the background, like Aaron's got her baby, I mean, life happens. If you have children in the background or life in the background or people around you, like that's totally fine. If you feel comfortable to participate in this time, you typically invite stillness in your body and eyes closed or gaze down, and just kind of trying to find a moment of quiet with my voice. And so either whether you want to participate in it or just kind of listen without being totally engaged, that's also fine. Everything is an invitation. If you'd like to turn off your screen, like Aaron said in the beginning during this time, just because, if we're getting quiet, we're still, maybe you would like that to be a private moment, that's perfectly fine too. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. I will invite you at this moment to just find a space that feels comfortable to you if you haven't already, and just allowing your body to get still and comfortable, not too comfortable that you might fall asleep. Stay alert, stay awake. If you get sleepy and you notice that you're falling asleep, just open your eyes, check in, and go back to it if you'd like. If you fall asleep, then maybe you needed sleep. And so if you feel comfortable to close your eyes, if you feel comfortable to do that, that's great. If not, you can find a gaze on something specific just to kind of keep your attention on me and less about the room that you're in and what it has to offer you in this moment. And I will ring my bell to start us off. And when the sound of the bell is gone, I will continue speaking. This is just a way to start us off. So I'd like to invite you to just bring awareness in this moment to your body posture. However it is that you are sitting, in whatever room you are sitting in whatever chair or cushion or seat you put yourself, just know that you are sitting, bringing presence to this moment. Feel your sit bones in the seat that you're in. Just let your body weigh down into that. And notice your breathing. in your nose and out your nose or out your mouth. Whatever feels comfortable for you, but notice this. As you breathe in, it's cold air, whether that's through your nose or your mouth. And as you breathe out, it's more neutral or warm air. Can you pay attention to that? You can even make a mental note as you're noticing the cold air around your nostrils or your mouth and the neutral or warm going out. You can make mental notes of breathing in as you breathe in and breathing out as you breathe out to stay focused on the breath. Try that a few times. Bringing attention to your body. Do you notice tension or any other kind of sensation anywhere in your body as you scan it from your head to your toes? And can you relax it? Maybe notice in your jaw, or your shoulders, your lower back, maybe even the muscles around your sit bones. And can you just notice and check in with your body and relax as you notice? And as you're sitting in stillness, you might even notice some difficult emotions or just any emotion. Maybe you feel unsettled or distracted, or maybe you feel something stronger. Can you be open to the feeling of whatever emotion is coming up for you or feeling? You just notice it and note it. Note the emotion that you're having right now. And can you notice if you're resistant to it, maybe wanting it to go away, or if you're okay with it being there? And what we want to achieve here is recognizing and accepting whatever our emotional experience is. And we can do this with a simple phrase: it's okay. It's okay to feel this. And as you're noticing that emotion, can you notice it? Simply state your phrase of it's okay or it's okay to feel this. And then when you're ready, reconnect to your body or your breath, whichever feels most comfortable to you. So maybe noticing the breath going in and out again, your nose or your mouth. Or maybe you just continue to scan your body and notice and relax sensations throughout it. And as you are connecting to your breath and your body, and you may notice that that emotion from earlier, or even a new one, comes back into your thoughts, can you just restate in your mind gently that it's okay to feel this, and then go back to breathing in, breathing out, or relaxing body when you are ready? And keep practicing in this way. You notice a feeling, or you get lost in thought or planning or distraction, or even overwhelmed by an emotion, just simply say in your mind, it's okay to feel this. And then gently come back to noticing your breath or relaxing your body. And coming to my voice with your attention now, and staying in a mindful, still, present body. Just know that when we work with emotions, sometimes our minds can get caught up in the story around it. And that is okay. All we have to do is simply note this. Say it's okay to feel this, whatever it is. And then reconnect to whatever we can do to practice calm or peace for ourselves. And at this time, I'd like to invite you to allow your thoughts to go wherever they want, to listening to sounds around you or the thoughts that you've been holding on to this whole time, or just continuing to focus on your breath or body. And in a few seconds, I will ring the bell. And when the sound is gone, you can come back into the virtual room. All right. So maybe now's a good time to do a little stretch if you haven't already. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here. So this session is called self-regulation. Continuing our focus on emotional well-being. And I just want to spend like a couple of seconds talking about self-regulation in general. What it is it's our ability to manage behaviors that we have, emotions, our thoughts. It's this idea of practicing to think before we act or take a pause. And taking this pause before we respond or react to something can do a lot of things for us. But one thing in particular that it allows us to do is it allows us an opportunity to respond and act in accordance with what we value. There are, and so values and recognizing values and being clear on our values is one way to self-regulate. And we're going to play with that in a little bit. Other ways to do that is mindfulness, being present, being aware of what you're experiencing, what you're feeling, how you're engaging with yourself and others. Another tool for self-regulation is changing your thought patterns. It's kind of like training the mind to think differently, to create new habits of mind. So there's just a couple of ways that you can practice self-regulation. But what we're going to focus on right now is our values, is the importance of core values. So identifying core values is a way to help us reset ourselves to what is important. And values are guiding principles that often dictate our behavior. It's our moral and emotional compass, I guess you could say, and it shapes like how we are at work, in relationships, with family, and on and on. And without a reminder of our guiding principles, it is easy to get lost or caught up in chaos that life brings to us sometimes, particularly like now, very difficult time. We've got the pandemic, we've got no school. We don't know if we're going back to school. The tornado destruction and emotional destruction to so many people in so many different ways, and all of these things that are completely out of our control, not even to mention our life at home and adjustment that we're still dealing with, can feel very chaotic. And when there's not something to pull us back to our core, it can take over. And it's a great tool, identifying core values, for getting some control when life feels out of control. And so core values are what you believe about yourself, and the world and how you interact with it. If you were to really analyze a person or a group of people, wherever, they will reveal their core values. Whether they're living them consciously or unconsciously, that will be happening. You will be able to notice that. And core values can change over time. I want to say that to you. I mean, we change ourselves as we grow older. And so some of core values might stay the same for years. A few might change. As you get older, you might become more resolute in who you are and how you lead your life. I've done the practice that we're going to do today several times over the last few years, and I can tell you that I've had a few change. This is what we're going to do. We're going to, instead of focus on emotions that are pulling us down, we're going to practice thinking about and focusing on something that will lift us up, that will refocus our attention, that will guide us. Even through compassion and care, it will guide us more specifically and just help us stay grounded in who we are and what we value. I want to say this to you. This practice that we're going to do is typically something that you do for your life as it's rolling out in a normal circumstance. What I'd like to invite in this practice is for you to think about what core values you need right now in this time of uncertainty, of not knowing. I know somebody wrote in the chat that the governor will be speaking today, and I'm going to make sure that we get done by then. I'm working my hardest to make that happen so we can listen. And I recognize that, but even so, even if we were to go back, we're not going back to the way we were. So what can we do to identify core values in this practice we're about to do? I want you to think about values that will help you now. Okay, so I just want that frame of mind to be for you. So this is what we're going to do. It's called Identifying Core Values. It's a practice that I've adopted and adapted from Elena Aguilar, who is, oh wait, hey Aaron, wait 1 second. Let me tell them first before they, sorry. I'm going to tell them 1 second. That's my bad, I didn't tell you that. I don't want them to look at it and be like, oh my gosh, what is that? So anyway,
everyone.
No, it doesn't matter. It's totally fine. So what's what we're going to do? You just saw like a little glimpse of all the words that you're going to look at. It really is not as big of a deal as it seems, because I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. So here's what you're going to do. I'm going to give you all these words that can be core values. This is not an exhaustive list. I actually specifically and intentionally took words out that I didn't feel like were really pertaining to what's happening right now. So I did a little bit of manipulation. But if there's a word that sticks with you, that's not on that list, you can most certainly, go off on your own trail with whatever words resonate for you. So this is the practice. I'm going to show you a bunch of words. You're going to pick 10 of them. You're going to have about 2 minutes to do that. The reason I'm not giving you a lot of time is because I don't want you to overthink it. Part of this is about paying attention to your instincts and already having that intuition, that understanding of yourself and who you are to really be able to pick these words. All right. So I'm going to show you this, or Aaron's going to show you this list in a second, and you're going to pick 10 and you're going to write them down on a piece of paper. I did this practice with the frame of mind that I invited, of staying focused on what you need right now, to really help you kind of make sure you know what's important and to kind of drive everything that you do and say. And actually mine were different than what I've done before, which was interesting. So I just wanted to speak to that experience. You're going to pick 10, and then I'm going to give you the next set of directions after that. If there's anybody on this call that has done this before, you know what's coming. And so, but I still want the lens to be what you need right now as far as values go. Okay. Because it might change in a couple of months anyway, depending on what's going on. All right, so Aaron, without further ado, can you show them all of these words? And you're gonna have to move the pictures around. I tried to move all the words over, like, how you can move our faces, like off the screen so that you can see all the words. Like I just tried it, you can move all of the pictures off the screen. You've got about 2 minutes to pick 10 words, and I'm gonna be quiet starting now. I'm not going to be quiet. write all the words that really resonate with you. It's easier to just, as you go through, write words that really stick with you, and then eliminate to 10. That's probably easier. Now I'll be quiet. You have about 30 more seconds. Oh no, I'm probably not making this easy on you. Loosely 30 seconds. And don't beat yourself up over this. This is supposed to be like a balance of like information to you and insightful to you and fun at the same time. So, try not to be too serious about this. I mean, serious, take it seriously, but meaning don't get mad at me if I say, okay, it's time to stop now. So what I'm saying to you. All right. So if you need more time to pick your 10, write me in the chat box. Just say wait or whatever, something nice maybe would be preferable, but had some very upsetting Zoom calls in the past that I will not speak of here. I got Zoom bombed. Not nice things. Okay, 30 more seconds, I've been asked. All right, now listen, my hope for everyone is a balance of fun, taking this seriously, being instinctual and not overthinking it, and being open. The more you engage with what I'm offering to you, the more you're going to get out of it. That's a promise. So, I want you to know that the 10 you picked is probably essentially what you feel like you need in this moment, value in this moment, want in this moment, and maybe in life in general when we're not dealing with something like this. I don't know, but those are I just want to say this because the next set of directions, people never like them. I just want to say that the 10 are, generally speaking, who you are. But in order to really get clear on how core values can drive your behavior, can drive your choices, can drive your decision making, you need to get more specific. So I'm going to ask you right now, out of the 10, cross off 5. And do not feel bad about it. I had to cross off kindness, and I felt like that sounds like I'm mean, but I'm not. It just is what I value, not what other people value about me, you guys. It's what you value for you right now that you need to stay focused on to help drive all that you do and all that you are. Cross out 5. I'm going to give you like another minute because I don't want you to overthink it. Ooh, I love Tammy put hers on here. That's awesome. Tammy, good luck getting rid of 5. All right, if you need more time, I'm only giving you like 30 seconds. Okay, nice. If you need more time, just say wait or tell me something on the chat box. Or I don't know, can they unmute themselves, Aaron, or not? Yeah, or you can unmute yourself and say something. I mean, like you're not allowed to talk. Always feel free to unmute yourself and speak. All right. Does everybody have 5? I can't see everybody on the call right now. I'm going to assume that everybody has. This is crucial that you are done with your 5 because I can't give you the next set of directions because it's kind of like cheating. What?
Can I get a little bit more time, please?
Yes, you can, Megan.
Sorry.
Jen, whenever you tell us it's time, do you want me to flip back, take this screen off?
Oh, yeah, you can take it off now.
Okay.
I think that's good enough. Thank you for saying that. I didn't even think about it. All right, peeps. It's time. You got your 5. Are you ready? Now you're going to cut it down. I know, Megan, just breathe. You're going to cut it down to 3. Yeah, don't you tell me no. Don't you nod your head at me, people. You know, when your students say, to you, you don't like that. Commit to 3. It's okay. I promise you there's a good thing that comes out of this. I love seeing people's 3. If you want to write your 3 in the chat box, I love to see them, but it's up to you, and it's totally if you feel safe to do so. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that everybody's got their 3. So here's what I'd like to invite you to do. Now that you have your 3, while I'm looking at everybody's 3 in the chat box that are writing them, because I love that. If you feel like, again, if you feel comfortable to do so, I'm going to pose a couple of reflection questions to you to spend some time around understanding how these words are of value to you as far as action goes, as far as clarity goes around these words and how they speak to you. So for example, my 3 that I chose based on, the invitation to think about what you need right now, I spent like a minute on each one, just really spending time about what does that look like? What does that sound like? And I'm going to pose some questions to you. So let me, Aaron, will you put the first question up on the slide, the second slide? There should be yeah. Oh, I guess that's not. Okay, so it's okay. So don't look at the second 2. I thought I put an animation on there, but maybe I didn't. So what we're going to do is you're going to do the first part. You're going to write down what these core values look like or can look like for you. So kind of the way to question this is, how would it feel to practice? So for me, mine were compassion, joy, and mindfulness. So how would it feel to practice compassion? And I just wrote like some simple phrases about what it would look like. And you're going to do this for each value. So that's the first thing I'd like you to do. If you need clarification, just unmute yourself and ask me. Nice, Erin. If you really want to get specific, you can even think about what this would look like, literally look like. You know, not just kind of how it feels, but how it looks. The more you put down in this time, the more clear you will be. And if you feel like you're finished, just go back and read what you've written. Maybe could even be, looking at what emotions get in the way of that and writing that down. And then in about 10 seconds or so, we'll reveal the next question, Erin. Yeah, there we go. So your next question that you can kind of work on is, in what parts of your lives do your core values show up? I mean, this is kind of a funny question to ask because like work and home are basically like the same thing for so many of us. But maybe it shows up in a particular relationship with somebody in your home or at work on Zoom. Maybe you could get that specific. Maybe you want it to show up for certain people more than others. So I wrote that I wanted my joy to show up more in for my children, being present to them, and they're looking at them and their joy. I really did it, I swear. See, look, I practice what I preach. And remember, the more specific you are, the more clear you will be. I'm going to give you a little bit more time. If you are done, if you are not done, just ignore what I'm saying because I'm going to repeat it again later. But if you're done, what you can start to think about, and I'm pulling my sticky note off because I actually have a sticky note with my 3 core values here. I turn them into statements. I'm going to show them to you very closely. So like my 3 that are typically ones are family, authenticity, and mindfulness. And I created statements with them so that I am living that core value with a little bit more clarity through a statement. So like showing my family attention and kindness. So family. And then being authentic to who I am and what I bring forth. So you can start playing with statements because ultimately that's what you're going to do after you leave time with me, or I'm going to invite you to do that anyway. So you can start playing with that. I'm going to give everybody about another minute. I really want you to spend time on this. right. Erin, I think we could probably take it off the screen because the last question I can just ask outwardly. So here's what I want to say about this practice. This is not a standalone opportunity with this practice. And I'm telling you, I'm imploring you, and I'm almost begging you to recognize how helpful it is to reconnect with your values, even just temporary values, to be able to stay firm on who you are and how you want to be at this time. How much of this helped me to get clear on that. Play with these words. Turn them into statements. Like I said, if you were busy looking at doing other work, like I turn mine into statements, and my underlying words are my values, and I created statements around them about what is really important to me. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute. But one way to look at this is to ask yourself, like, how would you want someone to describe you in your life now? Like, if somebody were to analyze, somebody means a lot to you. Like my children, if my children are going to look back on this time, they may not be like, well, my mom was living with joy and compassion and mindfulness during these difficult times. Not necessarily going to say those words, but could they have nuances of that? Could they see me in that light? And that would mean that I was leading and myself through my core values and my guiding principles, and being able to feel that. Does anybody, want to talk about how they feel looking at their core values? I love everybody's core values. And Lori, in the chat box, Lori, who's one of the participants here, even talked about how we did this 2 months ago. I did this with her school 2 months ago, and that they're completely different now than they were then. And, and so that's interesting. But does anyone want to just kind of speak out for a second about this, or write in the chat box? I just want to give opportunity for feedback or thoughts. And no problem if you don't want to talk, you do not have to. No pressure whatsoever. And thank you for putting all of your 3 in the box. I really like reading them. They're beautiful, all of you. Yeah, these are good action steps, Erin, you're right. So you might be wondering how being clear on what you value relates to emotional well-being. Like I said before, like getting clear on your values can not only help you slow down the chaos that we feel during difficult times, but it also helps you remember what matters. And it helps us make sure that we behave in a way that matches like who we want to be. But values can also guide reflection, like on a situation that you might be having. When we come across like a need to make a decision, our values can all the time, if they're clear to you and you're living them consciously, can help you make the right call. And they might even help you make a more clear-headed, less emotionally affected decision. For example, I'm showing you this again. It kind of goes with both. That compassion was one of my words that I did this time around. And part of it was listening to others, showing up for others, giving permission and support to have feelings, showing patience. And I want to do this particularly at home. And, but one of the ones that I've been trying to live through before I did the practice for today is my family. So the one that talks about how I'm showing my family attention and kindness. So my son, Aaron, I find myself trying to like have a hard time being attentive to his homeschool work. Because I have work on my mind. And so I'm shifting my attention back and forth from listening to him to like thinking about my to-do list and back and forth and back and forth. Well, when he does something the way that I want him to do, or he doesn't do something the way that I want him to do it, I think it should be done that way. And he tells me, no, I'm doing it this way. What is happening is I start to get agitated and irritated and frustrated. And I start to, talk like over him, and you need to do it my way. When I take a breath and I slow down and I think about my value, my core value is that I want to be kind and attentive. I have to ask myself, am I really listening here? Am I really acting with kindness to my family when I am? And it's okay for me to shift back and forth. I mean, we can't not have work on our mind when we're trying to do something else. So I can give myself compassion there, but it's really about okay, how am I going to be in this moment? The values help me make a decision about how I'm going to interact with him. I'm going to listen because I'm not really listening. I'm going to be open to what he's saying because maybe from his point of view, he's right in some way. And actually, when I do that, I can much better like live with my decision. And there will be times when we react unpleasantly to emotions like stress and anger and anxiety in a way that we're not proud of. And that's okay. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to be that way. Sometimes though, on top of those emotions, we start to feel shame, guilt, more frustration, even regret. Sometimes we even blame others. And so what happens is we start to kind of stack these emotions on top of one another. And a way to kind of get away from that is to think about how my values can facilitate and communicate effectively my decision making for better. Now, I have to tell you that these times happen to all of us. And I'm sure that I love some of these people are saying stuff. Sorry, I'm distracted now. I think it's cool that like by the way, I just want to say this, and I don't know if this happened to you, but when I did this practice and I came up with compassion, joy, and mindfulness, I noticed that a lot of the things that I wanted to happen, I have done, maybe not all the time, but I'm already doing. So it was a really good like self-recognition to notice that, hey, I'm doing these things already, but it's just a good reminder to set my path more clearly. But when we have these times of falling back into old habits and reactivity because of the chaos, because we're not slowing our brains down and being aware that that's happening, these things happen. And it's important to remember to practice kindness and compassion to ourselves during this time. And so I just want to invite as one more practice before you leave me. I didn't stop. That sounded really desperate. Not before you leave me. I'm fine. But I'm glad you're here. Before you go on to your beautiful lives. So I want to talk about self-compassion because yes, you can have these tools. Yes, you can be your best self, but we all have moments where we are not at our best. And that has to be okay. So I want to invite a practice to you of this. When you find yourself in a situation that is suffering of any kind, whatever it looks like, can you think about what's going on inside your mind when that happens? Is there an inner critic? Is there this constant like roller coaster of emotions and thoughts and, oh, there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this, and your mind goes on that road so often. We have to be able to notice that's happening, and it's not healthy to interact with suffering in that way. One way to interact with suffering is to be able to acknowledge that the sufferings happen and treat yourself the way that you would treat a friend. So if right now, with everyone who's dealing with the destruction of the tornadoes, I don't feel like I've done a whole lot to help. I've done some things. I've reached out. I've sent loving kindness. I've sent prayers. I've done all of those things, but action has not been something that I've been able to do. So I start to feel a little guilty. I also feel grateful that I have a home that's intact and safe, but then I start to feel a little guilty about that. And I've heard a lot of people say that to me, this balance there of how do I do that? And I start to kind of be like, how, should I even feel grateful? Should I even, God, the guilt, like I need to do more. You're not doing enough, and this inner critic starts to come into play. I don't know that that's necessarily true though, because we all can play a part, not just by action, but by prayers and sending love and kind thoughts and reaching out to people and just saying nice, kind words. It can be enough. But in order to stop that inner critic and that train of like getting myself in a way that's not productive thinking, I can slow myself down and I can think, okay, if I had a friend who right now is feeling guilty for not doing enough, what would I say to that person? I would say to them, it's okay. There's so many good helpers out there, so many people lending a hand. Prayers are good. Loving, kind thoughts are good. Reaching out to somebody who may know somebody is good. And it's okay that you are not out there on the front lines cutting down trees and building homes back up or, helping people pack up their homes. Like, it's okay. And I have to be able to say the same thing to myself, because it has to be okay. Because once we take ourselves down an unproductive road of thought, it does not become helpful, it becomes harmful. And it adds more suffering to the suffering that I'm already experiencing. This is a train of thought. This is a training of the mind that feels a little uncomfortable for people, because I think sometimes we feel like if we're worrying enough, if we're thinking about the worry, if we're feeling guilty, that makes us feel better because it means that I care. But it doesn't necessarily mean that. What it's doing is it's pulling energy away from you that you could give to the people in front of you, right? Or that you could give in a way that is helpful. So I'm offering this whole idea. I always say this to the students that I teach self-compassion to. I give them their hands, I make them put their hands like this, and I tell them to say what I would say to a friend, I should say to myself. And put your hands on your heart. So what I would say to a friend, I should say to myself. I want to honor time for you to move on to, if you want to watch the governor's announcement, but I'd like you to spend about 1 minute, just thinking about one scenario where this would have been helpful for you in the last couple of days. I just want you to think about it. If you can write it down, that would make me even more happy for you, because you'll get more out of it. If you just want to think right now, that's fine. But before we leave, or before we open up Q&A for a few minutes, I'd just like to invite you to think about a time. Just take a little bit of time. I'm gonna be quiet. You can write this down. You can just think about it. What would I say to a friend I should say to myself be helpful? Maybe you lost your patience. Maybe you were criticizing yourself for not doing enough of something, not doing something the right way. I'm going to give you a little bit more time to think about it, and then we'll move on. I'll give you about 10 more seconds. Whatever we don't complete here, just because we're getting off the Zoom call doesn't mean you can't look back at your notes, look back at what has happened here, and carry it forth on your own. This is where it kind of, the self-discipline comes into play. Like if you want this to really be of benefit to you, your self-discipline will kick in, and trust yourself. Before we open it for Q&A, I'd just like to invite you, if you have anything in your hands, just let it go. If you can just take a quick couple of seconds to just take a few deep breaths with me, letting your eyes close, and just drop your shoulders down and relax your jaw. Find some stillness, letting your eyes close or gaze down, and just breathe all the way in your nose, all the way in, and let it out of your mouth. Nobody can hear you in here. Just feel the effects of a deep breath. And then we're going to do one more together. So we're going to breathe in all the way in, and then let it out. And then just go back to your natural breathing, staying in stillness, eyes closed or gaze down. And just feel the quiet in your body and your mind for a few seconds, and then you can open your eyes. So I want to thank you for being here and playing with me on the core values. I really hope that they carry you in this time to help you stay focused. Put them wherever you need them to be a reminder to you to take care of yourself, to take care of your life and your loved ones and everyone else around you.